his head in his hands while he tries to understand the mess he is in. Basically, House Ogent has a peculiar trait of black and blue hairs in their family. The master of the house, along with the eldest son, have black hair and remarkable swordsmanship. His daughter, who has blue hair, is a great pianist, while Lai, a sword prodigy, also has black hair. But Leon is kind of a sore thumb in that family of talented people who didn't make a name for himself, even given a personal instructor. After thinking this, Shirone regrets that he should have just let Leon beat him a little. But now, he has blown Leon's ego, which is already bruised by the comparison with his brothers. By looking at the books, he thinks how he always had the ideal that books can save him. So now with determination, he goes to the shelf of books because he can't die here and risk his parents. He knows his time in the mountain gives him strength, so all he has to do is learn how to defend himself. For this purpose he takes out a number of books on swordsmanship, so he will do what he can. Meanwhile, Leon is taking 100 laps according to the instruction given by Master Kate. Master senses that something is wrong because usually, Leon complains during training, but Leon answers sassily that this crap can't be called training, which pops Master's eyes from their sockets. With exhaustion on his face, he replies that this training is not hard enough because he is still standing on his feet. But Master Kate immediately understands that something has happened, which he denies with shallow breaths. But Master Kate is curious and associates his behavior with Lai's achievement, but then rejects this thought as Lai already had his schema. Anyway, he warns him that he can die with vigorous training, but Leon eagerly complies. Meanwhile, our boy is also learning schema. It's basically the spirit zone for the swordsman, which heightens the awareness of the corporal form of the human body to the swordsman. Master of this technique can use every cell in their body during a sword fight. He closes the book with new awareness that this is the polar opposite of what he did to enter into the spirit zone. Then he decides to give it a try. He closes his eyes and tries to sense himself. He has entered the spirit zone so far, but instead of erasing himself like the spirit zone, he needs to delve into himself. By lifting the black curtain, he can enter the first phase of the schema, but then he suddenly stops because it would be a waste of his energy to put effort into something opposite to the spirit zone. Then he remembers Amy and wonders whether she was using schema and is shocked to think that she is too advanced for her age. Then he goes into the open field and unsheathes the sword. He tries to apply his spirit zone with what he has learned about swordsmanship. When this happens, he starts with 8 directional slices and swings his strike. Meanwhile, Leon is also shown training vigorously at a level that his master himself stops him, warning that his muscles could burst. But he keeps punching the log while exclaiming that his muscles haven't burst yet. But he is beyond frustrated, while thinking that even though his muscles don't burst, he hasn't even activated his schema. Seeing his condition, his master stops his training. After a while, he pats his shoulder, wondering what is actually occupying his mind. He vaguely answers that his arms are killing him. Thoughtfully, Master Kate expresses that he has never seen any report about his progress. Leon retorts that this is his reason to work hard. Master Kate ignores his tantrum while asking if there is something he should be good at, whether he has even delved into what exactly it is. Leon simply answers that he only knows what he is not good at, which prompts a quip from Master Kate that this is the reason he is not a genius. Leon irritably tells him to just shut up. However, Master Kate continues, while saying that a real genius is one who knows where they can excel and puts their effort into it without a doubt. Meanwhile, our boy is also learning swordsmanship through the books, while Master Kate's voice booms on about the greatest fear of a genius, which is trying to achieve something they can't. Leon's eyes widen with realization when Master Kate finally states that it can be a genius's greatest enemy. He clenches his fist, thinking that even though he is not born with swordsmanship genius, but he will pursue it with all his power. Both he and Shirone are determined to win in the end. Now our boy stands with a sword in his hand, ready to practice swordsmanship. As far as his knowledge goes, swordsmanship is basically the kinetic dynamic energy assumed at the removal of life, but it is also a work of mind games when one starts fighting. Now he raises his sword while picturing an imaginary enemy who can attack him with countless types of moves, but among them, only 8 attacks can be predicted from each side. He needs to focus on them. While imagining the enemy in front of him, he starts to block these attacks from each direction, but after a while he stops when this imaginary enemy takes another direction, and he loses where to block the attack in his spirit zone. He pauses and steps back to laugh after finally understanding that the path of the swordsman is also limitless, just like the path of magic. This time his expression changes when he unsheathes his sword. He apologizes to his parents because he might not have been to them, but under the moonlight he is satisfied because even staring at death, he has a chance to experience another great world. After a while he finally stands in front of Leon, who ushers him to start the fight. When Leon unsheathes his sword, he is stunned to see the confident look in Shirone's eyes after a month of training. Now, when he observes his wooden sword match with Shirone's, he realizes that Shirone is right. that our dude has never held a sword in his life, but he doesn't understand how our boy can be so calm after holding the sword for the first time in his life. He concludes that he must be a natural, like his brother, but regardless of natural talent, he rushes towards him, determined to beat his opponent. Meanwhile, our boy can see through his spirit zone that Leon is on another level compared to him. He immediately blocks Leon's attacks one after another. Meanwhile, Leon can sense that Shirone is observing his sword moves. On the other hand, Shirone decides to push off his fear of death, which lies in the future. He imagines that if he can't see what will happen next, he will have the courage to jump down from the cliff. When he steps toward Leon, it makes him gulp because he observes how Shirone has surpassed all of his emotions. When he rushes toward Shirone, he is determined to believe that he isn't afraid of death either. With that, he attacks his right side, which is blocked by our guy successfully. Leon immediately attacks him at full speed with unpredictable moves from every side. Our boy understands that Leon's sword strikes are brutal, heavy, and fast enough to make it difficult for him to dodge swiftly. It becomes harder for him to recognize the direction of Leon's sword. Leon's next move slashes his chest, which stuns him momentarily. With that, he subconsciously enters the spirit zone. Leon immediately strikes back, but again, our guy swiftly dodges the attack. Now he slides away from his opponent, panting heavily. He doesn't understand how Leon was able to injure him successfully. On the other side, Leon doesn't waste time and immediately strikes him again, which Shirone blocks with his sword. With an evil expression in his eyes, Leon immediately understands that Shirone is petrified by his move. He confidently thinks that there is a minimum chance for Shirone to endure his sword because he is an Orient after all. His strikes have the power to shatter bones. With that, he shouts and strikes again, but Shirone is also observing his moves while dodging his sword strikes. Our boy notices that after injuring him, Leon should follow up with an upward slash to injure him further, but now he is only using wide strikes. While observing him keenly, Shirone concludes that regardless of Leon's command of the sword, what he lacks is insight. His eyes shine with determination because now he can fight him at a lower level. With that, he rushes toward him with a new strategy in mind: to attack this time instead of just defending. Meanwhile, they are sword fighting. Leon also notices that our guy, despite being tired, is attacking him with basic attacks, but the problem is he is having difficulty blocking them. He also understands that, even though Shirone was exhausted, he is now saving energy by keeping that low-level rhythm. He again remembers the time when he was left behind by his father after his defeat at the hands of his brother, while he was too busy celebrating Lai's success. Then he sees Lai smirk victoriously at him, and he doesn't want to have the same experience at all. Now he shouts, while exclaiming that he is going to be the world's greatest swordsman. With that, he strikes him with all his might, but our guy blocks it anyway. To see him this furious, Shirone doesn't understand whether he is really following the rules of the duel or has gone berserk. Then he checks Leon's path of sword by his spirit zone, and is baffled to see that he can't read his movement anymore because of the random pattern. This time Leon is going to attack him from a lower level, but our dude immediately not only blocks it but throws Leon's sword away. Both of them are panting heavily, but Leon looks down in defeat. He is in disbelief at how he has lost. Then he remembers that Shirone had changed his grip in a flash while thrusting his sword upward, which clashed with his sword. On the other side, Shirone is also in disbelief that he really won, but he doesn't feel any happiness from that victory, because it's the second time he has bruised his ego, and he knows what the consequences of it will be. Leon, as expected, rubs his head nervously and admits his defeat. He turns to Shirone and asks how Shirone has the right to kill him, which leaves our boy stunned. Baffled, Shirone asks whether he is joking. To see his confusion, Shirone explains that whether he really thinks that he will spare you to see another day after killing a noble like Leon. Leon counters that it's the basic rule of a duel. Shirone retorts it with a statement that it was a duel for him, but for peasants like our boy, it was a matter of survival. The next moment, they are arguing about how they ended up dueling each other, blaming one another for causing it. However, when Shirone adds that the most honorable thing Leon can do is not drag his servant into this mess and follow his instructor's command, it hits hard to home for Leon. He remembers his behavior with Shirone, and his expression turns to suppressed shame. Exhausted, our boy falls to the ground while exclaiming that he thought that he was going to die. Leon, assuming they are going to exchange good remarks after a fight, looks at our dude, confused as to why he's in this state when just a few moments ago, he was a cold-blooded warrior. Then he concludes that Shirone is truly a natural warrior, but regardless of that, he doesn't mock him for his failure. He turns to our boy and asks him his name. After Shirone gives his name, Leon introduces himself as well and extends his hand to him. Our dude is totally stunned to see him like this, but the next moment is a surprise for him when Leon offers him friendship. After this incident, it has already been a year since our boy moved to Ojent Manor. During that time, he has successfully classified 7,028 books out of 10,453. Seeing this, Timoran turns to him and compliments his achievement. To see him, Shirone concludes that with each classification of the books, he is becoming more efficient. Now he only has 200 history books left to read. He has strategized to read 3 books per day to fully form the backbone of his knowledge. Besides his knowledge regarding swordsmanship, his essence of controlling fear boosts his stamina in the spirit zone. While remembering his fight experience with Leon, he gets a chill, but he focuses on his goal, which he can reach in no time with persistence. His thought process, however, is interrupted by none other than Leon, who is amazed by the gigantic stock of books his family has. He wonders whether they really read this many books. Shirone answers that his father and big brother use libraries often, which is scoffed at by Leon. At that, he thinks about how Leon can be charming and affectionate, but he nearly gets a heart attack when Leon carelessly throws the bag aside. He pleads with Leon not to damage the book because it can risk his life. Leon scoffs at that, saying that his life can't be worth less than a book. Then he shows him a thumbs up while promising to back him up even if he burns all the libraries down. Our dude nervously thinks about how he should be mute, but then warns him not to touch the books and reminds him about his training. At that, Leon lazily lays down, whining proudly, and telling him that he only has basic training, so he comes here to study. Our boy angrily deadpans, asking his reason for now studying. But Leon is quite bored to read them. To see him, Shirone understands that Leon is not lazy, but he is rather a fire elemental, and it takes only small things to fire him up. 10 minutes later, our dude is reading at his desk while Leon is sitting opposite him. Shirone asked him to study, but Leon is looking at the books like they are his enemies. He asks Shirone whether he really is going to read 800 of those books in order to become a mage. Shirone admits, while adding that he started late, so he had to make up for lost time. While flipping through the books, he tells Leon that after reading 600 books, he almost knows what is written in the remaining books. To see him reading this fast, Leon is totally amazed by our boy and even thinks that one day Shirone will wake up inside a book. To see him doing this while both of them are the same age, Leon finally looks at his book and finds it not so bad. Shirone's reading is halted by Leon's voice reading aloud. He is reading the prologue in such a way that the author wondered about the question of who would come victorious in a battle between a swordsman and a mage. In this search for this answer, the author wanders around the world. He goes to the peaks of the Artuzna as well as carnivorous trees devouring the mountain birds. He stops reading and exclaims that it's really boring. Our boy protested that it's not boring. Leon countered that these books held no pictures, no swordsmanship fights, so it's boring. But Shirone is already checking the book while protesting that Leon didn't even read one page and knows the answer to the question. Leon raised a question about why there is a duel between swordsmen and mages to fight in the first place. Before they could argue further, Lai interjected by answering that the swordsman will win the fight. Shirone immediately greeted Lai, while Leon is irritated to see his brother and asks how he will know the answer. Both of them, however, are afraid that Lai heard them arguing, especially Shirone, who knows that he can be killed for being friendly to a noble. Leon wanted to change the topic and provoke his brother, asking whether he was saying this because he himself was a swordsman. Lai answers that if he wants to know the answer, he can observe the position of swordsmen and mages in the kingdom. Leon counters that the question is about who will win in a fight, because status doesn't mean anything in a battle. Instead of answering his brother, Lai turns to Shirone and asks about his opinion. Shirone is totally horrified to have his attention, and thinks about Lai's motives for having him answer that. He knows that he needs to answer while sounding impartial. Then he steps to answer that if both the opponents have equal skill, then the swordsman will have difficulty once the mage enters into the spirit zone. However, he adds that if the swordsman can attack before any spell is cast, he can have a chance. But his words are cut off by Lai, who firmly states that the mage will lose. Shirone gets a chill after listening to this. To hear this, Leon immediately understands that Lai is doing this on purpose, because he finds Shirone annoying and wants to discourage him. But Lai confidently asks whether Shirone knows about the Armor of Sin from history books. This is the kind of artifact that can disrupt a mage's spirit zone. With a darkened face, Shirone concludes that Lai is talking about anti-magic. Basically, the spirit zone is like water with innate power, and a mage is like a shark inside of it. To go against a mage is like going against a shark. But one can win this match if they scatter the water and take out the shark's senses. And this power is obtained by anti-magic. This is the power to beat a mage who won't be able to enter the spirit zone with it. However, it's purely theoretical. The reason is this kind of equipment is utterly expensive because it is made from the heart of a dragon, which is in a wave state that no amount of money can make effective. However, one expert, Yakra, who is an expert on the equation of the wave, calculated the efficiency of anti-magic to be 65%, which didn't make it worth the money. Its worth is more than the kingdom's 1 year of budget. But Lian is interested to know whether it can really make a swordsman stronger. Lai evilly adds that the anti-magic is made by a mage. Lian is stunned to know that a mage would do something like this. Lai answers simply that it's a great way to make good money. He even arrogantly adds that there are numerous mages lining up to be hired. No one needs to waste money to get anti-magic. In his words, mages are nothing but people who leech off someone else's money. Lian is quite furious to listen to this and warns him, but his words are cut off by our boy, who calmly accepts Lai's statement. Both brothers are quite baffled to listen to this. Our dude continues that Lai is right about mages making anti-magic, but it can be used for good purposes as well, like in places where magic is forbidden and in training schools. In this way, it makes prosperity for the world. In this way, he can't say that a swordsman is stronger than a mage. Lai is quite irritated to listen to his argument, while Leon snickers to see his brother's face. Lai, who didn't come up with a good excuse, just exclaims that Shirone can think whatever he wants, but swordsmen are superior to mages. When he leaves, both of the friends laugh while our boy expresses that he thinks he is going to die. Leon hugs him for making Lai flustered. He even compliments him, saying he could be the greatest swordsman if his tongue were a sword. He is happy that Shirone bruised Lai's ego, but meanwhile, Shirone thinks that he is somehow not different from what Lai had said. He wonders if people will not be courageous enough to recognize their shortcomings. The world might not benefit from the concept called ideal. 6 months later, our boy finally completes his job sooner than anticipated. The person in front of Timoran is quite satisfied with Shirone's accomplishment of completing the work 6 months earlier and sorting the books that had been neglected for 20 years. He advises Timoran to make some excuse to extend Shirone's stay there, but Timoran sternly tells him to get back to his work. He finally leaves while the head butler is thinking about our boy. Meanwhile, Shirone is reading a book in his office while thinking that reading hundreds of books is not a simple matter. However, he sighs in relief for finally accomplishing his goal. But his thoughts are interrupted by the obnoxious voice of his friend calling out his name. Lian enters and asks whether he has really finished his work. With a satisfied expression on his face, Shirone replies that he has finally read everything he needs to. Lian jerks him, exclaiming how incredible our dude is. Lian congratulates him. At that, Shirone hesitantly asks whether he can see his house before leaving. Lian is taken aback by his question and explains that he always feels guilty hiding their friendship, and Shirone's question caught him off guard. Shirone also understands his feelings because they always meet in the library and pretend in front of everyone. He just wishes to see how real friends act before he leaves. But Leon gladly accepts his offer as his family is already out. After a while, Shirone is in front of the great manor, his eyes wide with an awestruck expression. Leon consoles him, while saying that everyone is outside and that they can come back at night. While going ahead, Shirone notices the quietness of the house. Leon answers that only servants are there. As they move forward, our boy is quite impressed by the giant doors of the room and finds it hard to imagine Leon living in such luxury. Leon's room is the smallest room at the end of the hall, which looks more like a small training area. Shirone has a feeling that he will likely visit it again after training. Once inside, both of them are playing cards, and our boy is proudly winning again and again. Leon is frustrated by the loss and accuses Shirone of using Spirit Zone to see his cards. Shirone reveals that Leon himself reveals his cards by the motion of his hands, which stuns him. Shirone explains that observation only works when someone is not obsessed with it. One can notice the small things when a person's intention becomes clear. Leon understands that it means he needs to see a bigger picture. He sulks, wondering whether he can use this skill to enter into schema. Shirone interjects, saying it might be because it helped him with his Spirit Zone. Our boy's attention turns to the fiction book and asks whether he can borrow it from him. But when he sees, he finds Liam totally exhausted. He looks at his watch and concludes that he should return because his family is going to come. On his way back, he stops after listening to the piano tune. He knows that the only person who can play piano is Lena Ogent, Leon's sister. Before he can say anything, Lena turns to him and asks his opinion. He nervously compliments her music while thinking about his next course of action. Lena expresses that she didn't see him here. Shirone clarifies his job purpose. Lena is totally impressed by his job and asks where he likes to play piano. Shirone thinks that he can't let his guard down, as she has the foulest personality in this manner, according to Leon. Then she offers him to sit next to her while she teaches him piano. Our boy is sweating, listening to her offer. To console him, Lena tells him that he won't get in trouble if he sits with her permission. Our boy knows he can't refuse now, but he doesn't want to miss the chance to sit at the piano. Lena slowly teaches him the basics of the keys and the sheet music she uses to symbolize the notes. She even explains how to make a chord. He listens intently. Nervously, he asks if he can try playing, to which she agrees. He embarrassedly tells her to cover her ears, but she encourages him, reminding him that he can't become a master in one go. At that moment he begins to play the piano while Lena watches, curious to see what he will do with the chords he has learned. Lena is baffled to notice that, even though our boy is playing the wrong notes, he doesn't fumble at all. She is also amazed by how perfectly he imitates her, even while playing incorrectly. Meanwhile, our boy is using his spirit zone while playing, and Lena grows tense as she notices he begins to harmonize the notes. It isn't a masterpiece, but it feels like he understands the essence of the piano. Lena is stunned that someone like him, a servant, could have such an instinct. Before she can ask anything further, Leon shouts at them for playing such bad piano. He exclaims that normal people should rest at home, not play like a crazy person. But he stops when he sees his friend sitting with his witch sister. Lena casually comments that he seems to know Shirone. Shirone, however, is all nerves, afraid that she will find out about their friendship. But he is shocked when Leon openly admits that they are friends. Seeing his expression, Leon explains that Lena isn't someone who cares about such things. Shirone still doesn't believe him. But then Lena addresses him directly, expressing that she has no problem with their friendship. Besides, she believes that despite being rowdy, Leon is good at keeping his word. Then she asks what exactly he has been playing, which boggles Leon that it was really Shirone who had been playing the piano. Shirone is completely in disbelief, not because of the question, but because Lena truly doesn't care about their friendship. He then turns to Leon and asks why he lied about his sister's foul personality, because she actually seems quite nice. Leon darkly tells him not to be fooled by her behavior because she is quite the witch. Lena chuckles and calls Leon a fool, while expressing that she is glad he has intelligent friends like Shirone. Shirone too is thankful. But Leon has another idea. With a smirk, he tells Lena to marry Shirone if she likes him that much. She counters, raising an eyebrow, that Leon must be really close to Shirone if he is willing to set him up with his sister. Leon arrogantly starts to say that it would be a waste of Shirone, but before he can finish his sentence, Lena grabs his collar and starts beating him. Apparently she has just been nice to him, and he has already ruined it. Watching their exchange, Shirone thinks to himself how wrong he has been about nobles. When she is done, Leon, rubbing his bruises, asks why she is home when she is supposed to be on vacation. She replies that she came home to see Lai, who is about to receive his certification, and because their granddad is also going to be home. Leon is stunned to hear that Lai is already certified for the exam. Basically, the official certification is a system that grades swordsmen and mages. For this exam, thousands of people gather, but only 20 receive the certificate. Besides that, there is also an unofficial certificate given by the school after reaching a particular level. One can also gain ranks and points through guilds and associations. Yet, people still flock to take the official exam because of the prestige, money, and fame it grants. That is why this exam is such a massive event. And now, Leon is even more overwhelmed to think that his prodigy of a brother is conducting this exam at the age of 18. Lena tries to console him, while assuring him that his day will come too. But then she goes outside to prepare a special seafood dish from the palace. Before leaving, she bids farewell to Shirone, and asks him to say hello to her when they meet again. He is completely in a trance, wondering whether he will see her again, as he is leaving tomorrow. Thinking about it, he hesitantly asks Leon whether Lena has a boyfriend. At first Leon is stunned, but then a big grin spreads across his face. Seeing this evil expression, Shirone tries to brush off his words, but Leon is already rushing outside, leaving our miserable hero behind. Outside, he shouts at his sister, telling her that Shirone wants to know her relationship status. Before he can say more, our boy shuts his mouth. Lena nervously chuckles, commenting how boys will be boys, and instructs the maids to continue their work. Meanwhile, Louis asks his subordinate whether Leon is expecting a visitor, and gets a negative reply. He thoughtfully looks at Leon with Shirone and tries to remember his name. Suddenly he remembers and asks Timoran to come to his room. After a while, Leon is seen training in the mountains and whining about taking a 10-minute break. Master Kate understands that his fire from last year was only short-lived. He thinks further that it will change when he goes to that place, and wonders whether he will work with his schema. At that moment, a servant rushes to him and says that Lena has asked for his immediate presence at home. At first he declines, thinking it's because of Lai, but he spits out his water when the servant informs him that it's about Shirone violating his contract. He asks the servant why, since Shirone was supposed to go home today. The servant informs him that before Shirone could leave, Louis submitted a report to his father, which involved him as well. He then turns to Master Kate, while saying that he is going home. He explains that his father has found out about his friendship with Shirone, and he is going home to save him. But Master Kate stops him. Meanwhile, at the Ogent Manor, the master of the house gives the verdict that Shirone's punishment is death. Upon hearing the punishment for our hero, murmurs spread among the servants about how Shirone has crossed his boundaries. Lena tries to reason with her father, but he refuses to listen, as he already has the head butler's report and the testimonies of the servants. He then turns to Shirone and asks him to say something. Instead of clarifying himself, Shirone asks what will happen to Leon after this. Everyone grows tense upon hearing that he is more worried about his friend, instead of asking for mercy. Master Ojent darkly answers his foolish question, stating that Leon won't be harmed because of his sins. Shirone sighs in relief, then admits that they are truly friends. They became close last year and have remained that way since. Everyone is stunned by his reply. Lord Ojent, however, is furious that Shirone is taking their family name so lightly. He then orders Oyent to finish him off secretly. Lena tries to interrupt, but he doesn't listen to her, as he has already given his order, which cannot be undone. Louis feels tense, thinking this is too much, but the other servant sternly tells him that this is how things are. They must do it for their master. They need to nip any tiny bud of conflict. He doesn't understand it now, but with the passage of time he will. Before they can argue further, Leon enters through the gate. Lena feels relieved to see him. Leon exclaims, asking how they can kill his friend without his permission. Ojent answers that it is his decision. Leon protests that friendship is not a sin, but Lord Oyent replies that for them, giving a death sentence doesn't require a cardinal sin. There are things they must uphold as nobles to keep receiving benefits, but Leon refuses to believe in these benefits if it means his friend's death. Lord Ojent explains that friendship with a peasant would only be beneficial to Shirone because he must have wanted something from him. There are many people in this world who are ready to leech off their weaknesses, but Leon protests that Shirone is not like that. At that, his father deadpans and asks him to show some evidence for his belief. This hits Leon hard because his father knows that the moment Leon admits he can't prove it, the argument will be over. Leon is completely taken aback by this demand because his belief is in his heart, and he doesn't know how to show it. He believes that if he were like Shirone, he would definitely find the answer. Then he turns to Shirone and observes his eyes, which are fully focused on him. Just like during their fight, he remembers Shirone's words, that he can move forward when he stops obsessing over small things. Leon understands that he needs to see the whole picture. But the problem is that the person in front of him is his father, who has great genes and is a 4th-level knight. Then he grabs his sword, because now it's a matter between father and son. The scene flashes back to 30 minutes ago when he is stopped by Master Kate. He protests to him that his friends can be killed, but Master Kate reminds him that he is just a commoner. At that, he quotes his own words, that someone who can speak through a sword can be worthy of friendship. Master Kate calmly reminds him that he should know that anyone who becomes a threat to his family will be discarded, so he should be considerate before becoming friends at all. Clenching his fist, Leon asks him if he would like it if he let him die. He exclaims that he won't back down when his friend is in danger. Sensing the fire in him, Master Kate observes that this fire shows there is something in Leon worth encouraging within. Then he hands him his sword and asks him to take it home, but if he is not ready, he should not step ahead. At last, he deadpans that it's going to be a mortal battle of swords. In the present, Leon laughs like a maniac while exclaiming that he knows he can't beat his father, but he believes in their friendship with every fiber of their being. Lord Ojent asks him not to take this family matter lightly. He even threatens to exile him if he wants to keep the dignity of his noble house. Leon is ready to leave this place, even if it means proving his friendship. So his father provokes him to unleash his sword and swear on it that they are friends. At that he really unsheathes his sword. Lord Oyent is stunned to see him raising his sword at him, but Leon clarifies that this sword is for his conviction. Lord Ojent reminds him that he didn't believe in Leon's friendship when he didn't get along with his family, because he is not a prodigy. He believes Leon's friendship with a peasant is just to make himself feel good. At that, Leon explains to him that Shirone is a great person and he swore to help him shine. Now Lord Ojent accuses Shirone of doing something to Leon to make him think such nonsense. Shirone protests that he didn't do anything. Leon tries to stop him from clarifying anything to his father, but our dude addresses him seriously and expresses that he doesn't need to bear this burden alone. Our boy then takes responsibility for his part, expressing that he always knew the risks he took the moment he accepted Shirone's friendship, but no matter if he dies, he won't regret it. To see this, Leon turns to his dad while exclaiming that this is also how he feels, as he will be happy to be exiled. Lena understands that, at the end of the day, they are humans who can't work with logic in this kind of situation. She looks at the teary eyes of the servants, thinking that everyone needs this kind of friend. Even Louis regrets seeing that. Before the argument can go further, their grandpa Clump interjects to see that. He compliments them, saying how he didn't know he would see something fresh at this age. Lena is quite happy to see Clump, as she is sure that now everything will be in their favor. Lord Oyent asks if he is going to come after a few days, but Clump answers that his friends enjoy the company of his young wife more than his. Shirone is in awe to see Clump, who is a level 3 general in their kingdom. But Clump prefers to be here in order to get some fun. Lord Ojent is quite disappointed in his father, who is excited when his house's dignity is at risk. But Clump counters that he is more interested in listening to what everyone wants to say about Shirone. Then he asks who will speak first, and Lena offers her testimony. She concludes that after meeting with our dude yesterday, she believes that he is a gifted man. He completed his work within a short amount of time and was going to go home if it's not for this drama. She doesn't believe that Shirone would have any bad intentions toward Leon that could tarnish their family name. At that, Clump turns to Lai, who is quite irritated to be a witness. He declares that Shirone is a fool, which makes his father happy, but Lord Oyen's face darkens when Lai says that it doesn't concern him. Lai clearly states that he doesn't care who Leon hangs out with. He only cares about going to the palace to conduct his exams, which stuns Lena, who thinks he is really her brother. At that, Clump excitedly remarks how entertaining it is to be with family.